Richard, my one big thing this week, I want to talk about a recent royal order issued by His Royal Highness Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, which includes some significant changes to Riyadh's largest university. And when I say largest university, I mean both in physical size. If you've been to Riyadh, you can see it's massive, but also the enrollment, endowment, impact on the community. Riyadh, Richard, as you know, has several large and impressive universities, but I'm talking about King Saud University, a public university in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Of course, regular listeners know of the 966 that we've had several guests on the program, Richard, that have a direct affiliation with the university, employed by the university. Dr. Abdulaziz Al-Nazi, who got his PhD at the University of Cincinnati over here, is now with King Saud University doing research and teaching there, and others, Richard, as well. King Saud was established in 1957. It was the kingdom's first university. And depending on where you're getting your numbers, there are 40,000 students there today at King Saud University, and that could be a little bit outdated. It's hard to find exact figures on King Saud University online. It kind of varies. Richard, for a time, the university actually changed its name to the University of Riyadh. And in 1981, celebrating its 25th anniversary, it changed its name back from University of Riyadh and went with the original name, which is King Saud University. And actually, another interesting fact about King Saud, Richard, and I believe you may know a little bit more about this and could shed some light on it. I can't find out if there's a tuition cost to attend King Saud. I know its education is heavily subsidized, certainly priced below U.S. universities, public or private. But it seems like a lot of the courses at King Saud University are tuition free. So anyway, Richard, I bring this up because, you know, visiting Riyadh, I think it's 7 times over the previous 10 months now. King Saud University is everywhere. I mean, physically, it's such a huge campus, and it's in really right in downtown Riyadh. Super cool. But its alumni, its reputation, again, amazing location in the city. And I have some friends, Richard, as well, working with its venture arm, Riyadh Valley, which is absolutely top notch. Shout out to those guys. Those guys are really brilliant, and what they're doing, along with Dammam Valley and some of these other university affiliated venture arms, are sort of right where the rubber meets the road on driving forward venture capital in Saudi Arabia. So that's really where some of the best and brightest guys are in Riyadh in the VC space. So, and their office and building is right on the King Saud University campus. So shout out to those guys, just Dr. Khalid, Mohammed, they're brilliant. Anyway, so getting to the news, Richard, recent royal order issued by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman orders a transformation of King Saud University into an independent, nonprofit academic institution that will be under the umbrella of the Royal Commission for Riyadh City, according to multiple reports, Richard. And as we know, the Royal Commission for Riyadh City is growing in purview and power in Riyadh. So this is sort of a big deal. The Crown Prince also ordered a new board of directors to be created for the university. The royal order named Youssef bin Abdullah Al-Bunyan as chairman of the board of directors. And I think this is interesting, Richard, because Al-Bunyan, who is Minister of Education, is also chairman of the board of directors for Saudi Arabia's SME Bank, which is under Monshaat. He's also former vice chairman and CEO of SABIC. And Richard, I think it's incredible because this royal order from the Crown Prince basically names a who's who of Saudi Arabia's private and public sector leaders to the board, kind of indicating that this is a big deal to him, and he wants some of the best and brightest in Saudi Arabia to be running the show over there going forward. Minister of Human Resources and Social Development, Ahmad bin Sulaiman AlRajhi, will be vice chairman. There are just a number of other people named to the board as well. The Minister of Industry and Mineral Resources, the president of King Saud University, the president of the Saudi Authority for Data and AI, Ahmad bin Abdullah Al-Rashid, the CEO of King Faisal Specialist Hospital and Research Center, the governor of SME, the CEO of Riyadh Nonprofit Foundation, the president of King Abdullah University of Saudi, president of KAUST, the CEO of the Saudi Tourism Authority, the chairman of the board of directors of the Council of Saudi Chambers, a representative from the Public Investment Fund, and then also, Richard, I should mention SRMG CEO, Jomana Al-Rashid. So there's a heck of a lineup here for the board of directors for King Saud University, and this royal order just makes it so. And it made me think a little bit about Richard, sort of maybe what's behind this. And I think Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman really wants King Saud to be, start really elevate itself as a brand in the academic community globally, as a destination for foreign students to come in. Its investment into universities, Richard, Saudi Arabia is really putting a lot into it. It's all part of Vision 2030. But I found this from the Oxford Business Group, Richard, which is excellent and does the occasionally really awesome report on Saudi Arabia across a number of different things. We know some people there as well. Quote, Saudi Arabia's tertiary education segment is steadily deepening its contribution to the country's push for higher competitiveness via applied research and the alignment of educational outcomes with economic needs and labor market realities. This improvement is apparent in the expanding presence of Saudi universities in international rankings. The 2022 edition of the Academic Ranking of World Universities, also known as the Shanghai Ranking, includes 7 Saudi higher education institutions among the world's top 1,000 universities, up from 4 in 2019 and 6 in 2021. Similarly, in 2022, the kingdom strengthened its standing in the QS World University rankings, with 14 universities entering the 1400 plus classification, in comparison with 9 in 2019. That's quite a jump. So, Richard, we've talked a little bit about this on the show. I don't know how much these international rankings really matter. I know that universities really care about them. They care about them here in the US and globally, because they sort of help you attract students and professors. There was some criticism published in April, Richard, by a study of alleging that Saudi Arabia was trying to attract professors to King Saud and other universities with basically, just offering them money and research grants to, put their name on their profile online so that they would help boost their rankings. That's out there as well. But yeah, so I don't know how much these international rankings really matter totally, Richard, but I know that it is a priority over there. And just looking at this, Richard, according to U.S. News and World Report, King Saud University ranks 213th in the world in terms of best global universities, which is pretty good. I mean, there are a lot of schools out there. University of Virginia is 119th, which is good, I guess.
Mabruk.
Yeah, thank you. And George Mason got my master's there, number 478. So King Saud has torched George Mason University in the international rankings. Again, I don't know how much all this matters, but Richard, just close with this. I think if you're looking to develop small and medium-sized enterprises in Saudi Arabia to drive the economy away from oil, just as a broad stroke, obviously, one thing that you really need is really good venture capital. I think good venture capital comes not directly from universities like what Riyadh Valley is doing, which again is excellent, but from sort of the spillover effects from universities, knowledge there, and professors taking their technology or their businesses and making them private and entering the market so that they can be world beating and exportable. And I think Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman probably agrees with that, because he's put this gentleman from the minister of education, but he's also chair of the SME Bank of Saudi Arabia, to be chairman of this university. So it's clear that it's a priority for him. And I think this may be a big deal as the dust settles from it over time. So just interesting. And I think this is one of those things, Richard, we get compliments a lot where people say, hey, like, it's great that you're drawing attention to news stories that you may not hear about normally. This is something that is not going to be picked up in the New York Times, but it's genuinely significant for the city of Riyadh.
It is. That's a good one. And I didn't, I didn't understand. We had carried that article in the review. I don't understand. I don't really understand, to be honest, what it means in Saudi Arabia, which is generally a tax-free environment, what it means to be nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
But you put your finger on it. What's really impressive is that board of directors. That's a combination of really talented people with a diversity of skills. And that'll be really interesting what they want to do. I mean, you're also right. I mean, Saudi Arabia really likes these global benchmarks in terms of education. So, and we've tracked this, as more universities and institutions are recognized and get into these tables, they really want to see this happen. And KSU, Saudi Arabia likes also, sort of these anchor institutions like KAUST, Princess Nora University, King Faisal University of Petroleum and Minerals out in the Eastern Province. These are like you say, they're hotbeds, magnets for real innovation and academic progress. So I mean, you can see why they want one in Riyadh, and they would like the King Saud University to be this. On a personal note, I worked at King Saud University in the 80s when I was there, both working with the commercial counselor at the embassy, but also helping build the library at King Saud University. At the time, you've seen the architecture. The architecture is amazing, but when I was there, it was more out in the sticks. I mean, even the diplomatic quarter hadn't been built. I mean, you've seen Riyadh, so it was much more sort of in a sort of a moonscape type thing. This amazing architecture, and you drive up to it, and I remember the first Dune, the one with David Lynch and Kyle MacLachlan, way back when, it came out in 1984. And I don't know if people are familiar with Dune. Most people are, but that's a imaginary planet that is just essentially a desert. And I always thought this would be a perfect place to have filmed Dune, because it's the desert landscape, but then this amazing architecture just coming out of it. So it was, so that's I digress, but really fascinating. And juxtaposed with our one big things are interesting in that it sort of speaks to the many different ways Saudi Arabia is trying to deepen various environments and sectors. One's sports and participation, and along with that comes global profile. The other is an academic, a stronger academic base that attracts attention and maybe students as well as academics. But they're moving in a lot of different directions at the same time.
Yeah, and Richard, there's increasingly competition for international universities. I mean, if you were a top student, you would pretty much go to an international university if you were Saudi. And now more and more, that's a little bit less the case. You have attractive options at home. And if these, investments and changes to some of Saudi Arabia's universities to make them even more and more competitive, you're going to start having Saudis have a really tough choice between going abroad and staying at home. And likewise, you'll have some international students that start to think, hey, this school is, pretty top rated. It's right in Riyadh. It's right next to some of the newest developments in Riyadh. It's right next to the digital city in Riyadh, which is so cool. It's usually where I stay. So it's right there. So, yeah, just cool, Richard. And I think we'll keep an eye on this. Of course, yeah.
Absolutely. This will be fun to watch. Let's see what this means to have this kind of board of director and what it means to be a nonprofit.
Yeah. So you don't really know what that means? Because I don't really know what that means.
I have a sense of it in our environment and regulatory environment in terms of taxes and that sort of thing, and how it has to be managed and the bylaws required and that sort of thing. I have a sense of it, but I don't. But so, for example, a nonprofit, here, the U.S. stipulates certain things. One of them, and also gives you certain benefits. People can contribute without, and take a tax deduction and that sort of thing. Again, I don't know how that would apply in Saudi.
Yeah. Interesting. Again, shout out to Khalid Al-Salah, Mohammed Al-Mansour, those guys, and Mohammed Al-Jarrah at RVC. Those guys just they sort of set the model for other university endowments to invest in venture and directly into startups. So it's kind of cool that they're just way ahead. Anyway, so shout out to them. Richard, let's get to our conversation with Amr Sheikh, CEO.
Another good one. Another good one.
So good one, and such a good one. He's just brilliant, and you can just tell he has vision, and you can tell he really has very unique mandate, and he just it's just awesome. So